The pen hovered above the paper when the knock came. Sharp, unapologetic, like truth. I was already dressed for war. Black suit, hair pinned tight, divorce papers breathing beneath my palm. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and lies. Then the door opened and a stranger stepped into my life carrying a briefcase heavy enough to bend the room. "I'm her husband," he said, calm, surgical, "and I need you to wait." He set the case on my table and clicked it open. Numbers stared back at me, too many zeros to be a mistake. $100 million, clean, liquid, immediate. "Don't divorce him just yet," he said again. "Let me help you finish this properly." That was the moment I stopped shaking. I met my husband in a sunlit cafe where the cups chipped and the promises didn't. He was attentive then, precise. He listened like listening was a skill he'd mastered just for me. We built a life with spreadsheets and Sunday mornings, with plans that assumed loyalty the way gravity assumes the ground. I loved him because he felt safe. I trusted him because he never needed to ask for it. That's what betrayal feeds on, certainty. The changes came quietly. Later nights, a phone turned face down, cologne on a Wednesday. He laughed at jokes that hadn't reached my ears yet. I cataloged everything. I am very good at lists. I found the message on a rainy night when the house hummed with electricity. A name I didn't know, a sentence that ended with a promise I recognized because it used to be mine. I didn't cry. I locked the phone. I went to sleep. Shock is loud for people who need witnesses. I needed outcomes. I didn't confront him. I adjusted. I listened longer. I watched him rehearse lies in the mirror with the diligence of a man who thought himself uncatchable. I met with an attorney under the name I use when I don't want to be found. I pulled credit reports. I mapped accounts. I learned where the bones were buried and which ones were wearing suits. I waited. The other woman was married. That mattered. It meant pressure. It meant leverage. It meant a second man whose life was also bleeding in quiet rooms. He found me before I found him. He came alone. No theatrics, no threats, just facts. He slid photographs across my table the way a doctor slides scans, clinical, devastating. He told me about shell companies, offshore accounts, a partnership my husband had been siphoning into her name. He told me about his own patients, his own planning. "I want them exposed," he said, "but not yet. I want them confident." The money wasn't a bribe, it was capital. I agreed because justice requires funding, and because I had already decided not to scream. I wanted them to fall quietly, in public, with receipts. We built the plan like architects, not executioners. First, I stayed. I played the wife. I cooked. I smiled. I asked about his day. I let him believe he was winning. Confidence makes men careless. Second, we rerouted. The money he stole was tracked, documented, mirrored. For every move he made, we made two. The other husband's accountants were artists. They painted my husband into corners he didn't see. Third, we prepared the stage. Board meetings, audits, whispers timed to earnings calls, a journalist with integrity and a lawyer with teeth. I filed nothing. I signed nothing. I waited. The affair continued. Of course it did. They mistook silence for ignorance. They mistook patience for weakness. They kissed in places that had cameras and sent messages through servers that never forget. Then we tightened the noose. On a Monday, his bank froze 3 accounts. On Tuesday, a subpoena arrived at his office. On Wednesday, her husband filed suit. Clean, devastating, public. On Thursday, the board voted. On Friday, the article ran. I watched him read it at the kitchen counter where we used to plan vacations. His face collapsed in increments, a man realizing the world he curated no longer recognized him. "Did you know?" he asked me, voice thin. I looked at him like I was meeting him for the first time. Know what? The confrontation wasn't loud, it was precise. She called him screaming. He begged. She disappeared. Her husband moved assets and futures with the calm of a man returning a borrowed book. My husband lost everything he thought was untouchable: reputation, access, control. Then I filed. The divorce was swift, clinical, unromantic. I kept the house. I kept my name. I kept the money he never knew existed until the judgment listed it in black ink. The 100 million was transferred into a trust that morning. My name alone. Clean, legal, earned. He tried to apologize. They always do. He tried to explain the why, like why ever matters more than what. I signed the final paper and stood. "This is the part where you realize," I said, calm as water, "that you were never smarter than me, just louder."